Modern society can be considered a monumental achievement, that everyone is contributing towards this new development of the likes which the earth has never seen. With road networks, buildings, and its functions, it's almost like society has become an organism, and we are the parts that make up its body. Technology and machines that we have conjured out of the earth have become our ally and contribute towards the improvement of our life. But in the integration of these artificial machines, we are becoming much like them ourselves. Modern society has created a mechanism by which the growing demands of the world are satisfied, and this process, known as the assembly line, is a metaphor for what we are doing to ourselves, and I call this the cultural assembly line. The moment we are born, we are placed on the cultural assembly line. Society begins by taking what is wild and free, innocent and natural, the souls of many, uniqueness, and begins to civilize it by placing it in a funnel and filtering out what does not serve its desires. The person then, throughout its education, undergoes a process of refinement, telling it what is right and what is wrong, how they should behave and act, and providing them options of where they shall go and what needs they must fulfill. And when that individual has reached a desirable status, it is ready for the last phase. When we are transformed into a desirable state, we are bottled up, stamped, packaged, and ready to fulfill the appetite of the world. We are all asked, what is it you want to be? How would you like to serve society? Forcing variety into conformity. The truth is, we shouldn't want to be anything. We should just want to be. This is the modern tragedy of the soul. What point is it to be given the gift of life as a unique individual, but to have another rule your footsteps? Humans are being manufactured, like a cookie cutter, stamped, and much as the same as the other. We are losing our humanity and becoming civilized. Society is now at the cost of the soul. Society has taken away the beautiful and naked experience of life, along with the living mystery of it, and replaced it with conditions where we spend most of our wakefulness acting like a robot. We perform repetitive processes, some pushing buttons, some pulling levers, some putting on a mask all day and told to smile. Man loves change. He loves incompletion. He lives for motion. But when his yesterday, today, and tomorrow are all repeats of another, doing the same things over and over without variety, how do you think that will affect him? Everything he does has become artificial. Artificialness has become the theme of society, from the way we communicate, the way we feed ourselves, the ways we meet people, the entertainment we watch that replaces reality. Society has become dead, absent spirit, or anything sacred or meaningful. And if this is our environment, it is no surprise that we have become dead inside ourselves. What you feed the mind, it produces correspondingly. They say you are what you eat. It is true for the mind as well. Every day people force feed their heads full of information, all of it useless. Our lives have become so boring and empty that we glue ourselves to social media, because instead of living life, since society has taken it away, we spend our life filling it with the lives of others. We kill our soul through distraction. Everyone likes to mimic their environment and the things in it. This is a survival strategy. But now it is playing against us because everyone is mimicking a contaminated environment. We joke about when the zombies will attack, but the living dead are already here and flourishing. Mindless people are everywhere, whose awareness is like looking through binoculars. They cannot see anything else other than their own crude desires. Our feelings have been shut out by society. We have become so numb and bottled up. We have forgotten how to feel, how to cry, how to love, experiencing the ups and downs of life. We don't know what being alive is anymore. We aren't living. We aren't alive. Not in this society. It is no wonder why America is in a mental health crisis, because man is famished of life. There are many who are unhappy, miserable, lost, depressed, with no hope in sight. People are suffering from emptiness. People want an escape, but there is nowhere to go. There is an itch many cannot scratch. Deep down, many have an inkling that something is wrong with their condition, that something is missing. But society offers many things to keep us at bay and ignorant of the error that we live. They entice us with many empty pleasures. They bombard us with entertainment and pleasurable foods, and it gives us a distraction, comfort, and escape from an otherwise uneventful life. But these pleasures do us no good, even though everyone loves their distraction. Anything to take their mind away from the dullness of their own condition. Since we are so far from life, video games have been provided to us because reality in society has become so dull that we must resort to a fantasy to get our fix. That our adventure, motion, communion, and reality is now substituted by what's projected on a screen. Television is a necessity of every household, since we have destroyed community, with everyone imprisoned in the square walls which we call home, so sheltered from life and nature. We watch programs that are filled with petty drama, action, adventure, and the natural world that we never get to see because we have not the time and in many cases the money to. Society takes away what was natural and offers you an artificial replacement, but of course it provides it at a cost, a common theme in our culture, that is, taking away what was free and charging you for it so that you are dependent to it. To go see the serenity and beauty of nature, you now must pay. Clean water is at a cost, since most clean water in the world has been polluted. Food that barely passes as such is at a cost, since we barely have the time or money to eat well or produce our own. Even in some badly polluted areas, a can of fresh air is now at a cost. Society seems to make sure that we are fully dependent to it, that we are enslaved to its own agenda, and anything that causes problems or needs that makes people transfer more of their money over is a bonus, while barely keeping them alive enough, at least, to serve. Society damages us in many ways. Society creates inner problems from its outer conditions, and then offers you corrections, but of course at a cost. It says, you are depressed? Here, this will help you. You have anxiety? Here, take this. You are too stressed out? Here, this will help. You are sick from the horrible food we offer you? Here. You developed cancer from the environment that your job put you in? Here. You sit down too much because of your desk job and have neck, back, and wrist pain? Here. Society offers many corrections to problems it does not bother to fix. How fitting. Anything to cough up more money. If someone is slowly driving a dagger in someone, society would, as it currently deals with things, will try to manage the bleeding, but not think about removing from the scenario the person and the dagger that is causing the actual issue. That is how the medical field operates. As for pills given for conditions relating to neurosis, they just cover up the problem, It is not a solution. It is a band-aid to a wound which cannot be healed. The pill may help temporarily, but they usually end up causing more problems than the one it tried to correct. The pill helps you adapt to something that your damage suggests is wrong, but you take the pill and ignore the real issue and continue to do wrong, while the pill and its exposure creates more imbalances for you until all you eat are pills. The inner voice keeps saying change your environment, but you cover it up and shut it up with a pill because there is no escape from the environment that is causing the issue. We need medicine, but for many, society gives us poison. This is the sad reality of our health crisis, that society creates problems and charges you for it, and the fix ends up causing more problems until we are on the precipice of death, and all we lived for was for serving the greedy idea of another. But I am not for living my life to make someone else I don't like prosper, while I live a dreadful life created from someone else's tainted imagination. We don't need the things that society offers us. It is not for our benefit. We don't need luxury, conveniences, entertainment, technology that only makes us soft and rotten while polluting the world. People in this society are too pampered. It's no wonder many adults still have the mind of a child, because resistance conditions, struggle conditions, suffering conditions, and develops not only the body, but also the mind. And many are without it, and this is why humanity remains in mental adolescence. The body grows, but the mind still lacks development and conditioning from its environment. People have it too easy, and when man does not have the correct amount of resistance or struggle in life, he grows weak and lazy, mentally, physically, spiritually. The problem with the modern world is people like to be comfortable, but while they remain in comfort, they remain ignorant and undeveloped. Development is promoted by resistance, as it is with the body, as it is with the mind. And that's why the world is absent both knowledge and development, because everyone chases happiness in what feels good. If only they knew that their love of feeling is what changed them, and that's why the way to light is through darkness, and the way to darkness is through light. It is easier to descend than it is to climb a height. If someone is exposed to the light for their whole life, meaning things that feel good, they have no reason to activate the light of the mind and remain ignorant. But those who go through life's trials will need the light of the mind and exercise it. Those who struggle are the strongest and most wise in life. Those who have it too easy are the weakest and most ignorant, and that's why the latter runs rampant. Resistance makes us strong. If resistance did not exist, incompletion would not exist, motion would not exist, life would not exist. And that's why life resists man. It is for his benefit, if only he could understand why. What happens in life if someone is exposed to physical resistance? The body becomes chiseled and strong, and the body becomes more visually appealing to a mate. The same is true of the mind, and that its composition attracts correspondingly. Resistance is for our benefit in far more ways than most will know, but society offers too little or too much. The body and mind must be kept in check with resistance, of which nature distributed evenly. This society commonly offers too little resistance, and many become spoiled, ungrateful brats that are easily flustered by the words and actions of others, because they have not been exposed to resistance and their defenses are easily shattered. This is why suffering is a much-needed medicine to those who participate in our society. Pain and suffering is a potent medicine, for not much else causes one to be so motivated to change themselves. Man must be broken down, heated, formed, and sculpted on the anvil. Everyone complains at the slightest discomfort because they have it too easy and everything in abundance. A complainer lacks the conditioning nature offered. Stoicism was natural to what lived naturally, but now is hard to come by in a society that has nothing to do with nature and therefore development. Many complain and many spend their time ridiculing others, but ridiculing others is only an expression of your own insecurity and lack of development. Those who ridicule have more problems than their victim. This is one of many errors of the mind caused by the strange environments of society, because society has nothing to do with individual fulfillment and development. This is why the holy men and mystics leave society to retreat into the wilderness. The hermit hides from the world. So too does what else is intelligent. Those who are full of spirit and God will naturally abandon what does not align with their values, because society has opposing values to the spiritual aspirant. If there is an inner voice that is present in the individual, that speaks his passions, society will make sure that its own desires and direction is louder than the individual's. If the soul desires expression and fulfillment, society will drown it out with noise and nonsense. And since the individual listens to the authority of money, because there is not another option for them, depression and other imbalances will manifest, because they ignored their own soul and its guidance to its own fulfillment. Depression is a cultural creation. Our ancestors were not depressed. Depression comes from a creature who has their roots in the wrong type of soil, meaning environment. All plants require different soil. Some like it more acidic, some more alkaline, some in the middle. Some like more darkness, some more light. You cannot stick every type of plant in the same soil and expect all of them to flourish. All plants need differing ingredients to build upon their expression, and it is no different for man. Man should be able to understand this, but he remains so distracted from wisdom and the teachings of nature, and so involved in how to profit, that he cannot decipher right from wrong. He lives so outwardly, never inwardly. Under nature, our focus was directed both inward and outward, not just outward like society promotes. We had both time to live and time to consider. Modern culture distracts people from the outside so much that they completely ignore the inside. The problem with living exclusively in the external is the mind is not exercised, and especially nowadays, that is a monumental problem, because the mind exists in order to remove error. But since we do not have a mind, there is nothing people can do to escape the error that they live, and will become a victim of society. Now, only the soul's intervention can save them if they are so lucky, as I was fortunate enough to hear. Man must become compelled by the mysteries of life. He must become compelled by meaning, and if you desire something more, beyond everything on earth, with all your sincerity, as much as you desire your next breath, then you will find something, and perhaps even experience something, that will be invaluable beyond the measure of words. Man must have spirit, and man must live internally. How can you expect any utopia on earth to be constructed if he does not first construct it inside of himself? If we fix the within, we fix the without. If the universe is mental and all things material its shadow, then surely man must first begin with his internal self if he wants to succeed in constructing something externally. Everything in the smaller is in likeness to that which is greater. Man's creations begin from the mind, and in the greater scheme of things it is no different. All things material were first born from a mind, and so if man wants a utopia, let him first construct it within. All of man's problems stem from his psyche. The crisis of consciousness we experience today, the lack of stimulation into himself, is the cause of all man's problems. If something is malnourished, it will not function correctly and have a short lifespan. But man cannot seem to correspond what happens in life to his inner life. That is, if his mind is malnourished by the food of society, he will not operate correctly. And because he doesn't, his inner condition infects the outer condition. Culture has failed to nourish humanity. It is not an agreeable environment. Society is harmful to ourselves and all of life, and that should be enough to inspire change in our ways, at least to those who remain rooted to life. I cannot tell you how a society should be constructed, because I am not for a society. I am for small communities living under the rule of nature, as it always was. Anything too large becomes too difficult to change or control, and if something becomes too large, it creates cracks and crevices and caves where mischief and darkness can hide more easily. It is difficult to provide the correct kind of order to a massive population with varying preferences, interests, and habits. But mostly, the greatest error of a society is that the larger our group grows, the more distant we become from one another, literally and figuratively, and separation from the rest will turn one against another because love is not present. We live in great error, and will always get up every day and suffer the error of others. We cannot even begin to imagine the experience of life that has been taken away from us, a truly magical and mysterious experience. What emotions and feelings and passions have been long dormant by such a rich experience of life under nature's rule. Some may argue and boast that we now live a longer life thanks to modern society, but what good is a longer life if it is far more dull? Under the rule of nature, rather than the rules of other men, we were always exposed to nature and could always behold the glory of the unpolluted night sky, and every night this would stimulate our thoughts and keep us close to life. We had the correct amount of resistance that made us strong but not too weak. We killed for our own food and were thankful that its life was sacrificed to continue our own, and celebrated the daily triumph over death. We remained in touch with spirit. We knew the basic essentials of life and weren't bombarded with nonsense and noise. We had a sense of community and never felt lonely. Everything was simple but kept us busy. A great sense of mystery was alive every day, not knowing what was beyond. It was just perfect, and fair, and fulfilling, and balanced. The rewards far outweigh the cons. But the rewards of society are not worth what it costs. Society has become detrimental to man's mental and physical health. Society teaches everyone to produce and produce, work and work, with the whip lashing on them. Society teaches its participators to operate at such a fast pace that many do not know how to slow down and they end up on a mental or physical crash course. The brain and body are firing on all cylinders, and this will wear its user down very fast until they become burnt out and worn out. Thank goodness we can look forward to retirement, where we are finally free to do all the things we wanted to, but couldn't because society's needs had greater priority. But then we realize we are unable to do what we always desired because our health has been diminished to a point where we are unable to do anything at all. It is not natural to be wrung out every day like our society does to us. Simplicity is the key to a stress-free life, and society is as complicated as it gets. For the sake of our life and our soul, we must learn to slow down. We must cease our cultural endeavors, stop and listen, because in silence is the most heard, in silence is the most said. If you learn to sit in silence, there is much to be uncovered. Silence is the activity of the spirit. Noise is the activity of the body. Balance them both. In this society, we just sprint through life, and then we get to the end and wonder what it was all about, without any time left for answers. We miss out on getting to know life and ourselves. There is a time for haste, but not all the time. There is a time for motion, but not all the time. What is more rewarding? If you go out into nature and sprint through it, or walk through it. You will barely absorb anything if you run through it. The same is true of life. We are not machines meant to carry out repetitive processes to satisfy the insatiable appetite of a dying society. We are human. We were born to be free, free to direct our own footsteps in whatever manner desired. But now that natural right has been taken away from us. America and its people like to boast about its freedom, and while it may provide more freedom in comparison to the conditions of other countries, can we really call something the land of the free based on the conclusion that it's just more free than what most are used to throughout the timeline of society? And if this is true, that we justify calling our country this because it provides this ingredient to a greater degree than others, and we are playing the comparing game, why haven't we made the comparison from now to the past, when man's ruler was nature, not other men? If we did, surely we wouldn't be calling America the land of the free, because in comparison to the past, we have far less than we used to. But people do not make this comparison, and because it's just the way things are, it is accepted by the majority, and people do not challenge it. Many think we have evolved, but the only thing we have evolved is technology, while the human mind has diminished in its quality. It is true, as we become more and more civilized, we are slowly correcting the mistakes of the past. But there is one practice that has been alive since perhaps the beginning of man, and is now more alive than ever before: slavery. Except now it is a civilized enslavement, a secret enslavement. Secret, because only in ignorance do the chains that society places on people remain unseen, but those who exercise the mind and reason can see the origin of all actions, and can easily see through the illusion that the ignorant call freedom. What is freedom in the human condition? It is expression of and following passions without hindrance or opposition. It means that every individual is free to walk where they please, when, and in what manner. Do the conditions in America satisfy this description? They may to some degree, but only after you have purchased it. Freedom is at a cost now, like all other things once free. It is not a natural right anymore. Everything free has been taken away from us, then offered back to us, but only under the condition of our servitude. It's not much different than plucking a free man out of his natural habitat and placing him into an enclosure that does not have water, then telling him water can be placed back in this new environment only as long as he does what he is told. That's what society has done, placed us in parameters in which we need many things, then provides them at a price, of which price can only be satisfied under servitude and cooperation. Society creates conditions and problems in which people need more things than what they used to, and leaves it to us as our financial responsibility. It has said, you need to smell nice, so you must shower every day, use our provided water, buy cleaning products, and buy a washer and dryer, all at a cost. You live in one area, but work in another, and need things from other places in a different location, so you must have a car, which needs gas, which needs oil, which needs many things, at a cost. We have taken away community and companionship. You must buy a phone and other technology to keep in touch with family and friends that our way of life has split up, and you must have a TV to keep your lonesome self entertained, all at a cost. We have set standards of appearance by which you have been influenced to follow, especially women, so you must have these things in order to achieve it at a cost. Your lawn and house must appear to our request. Have all these things to make it so, at a cost. Our new world requires electricity for many things, but you must pay for it. Society creates problems for us, and then demands it is our responsibility to fix it, and we can only fix these inherited problems by means of money, which we can only obtain by means of servitude to society. Freedom, like all other things now, as a metaphor, sits on a shelf at a store, and you can have a bite of it to eat, but you must purchase it by means of paper, and you can only earn this paper by first serving the needs of another, whom you do not know nor care for. That only after serving society for a time are you given a timed ticket of freedom. That because you need the things that society offers, and that society has intentionally made itself the only source for basic needs, you are forced into undesirable parameters, where you work most of your waking life doing the things you don't like to do, so that you can, for a short while, do what you want to do. Your loyalty to serving society is rewarded with basic needs, but these basic needs are like subscriptions, and you must keep serving in order to maintain them. And if you do not serve enough, your basic needs will become forfeit. That doesn't sound like freedom to me. This is the cost of money. That the degree of freedom you have in life is proportional to the amount of money that you make. And if you want more freedom, you need to get more involved in society. And to get more involved in society, you get less involved in nature, spirit, life, and yourself. I will admit, it is true, one can never be truly free in life, that in both society and nature, you had to work for your survival. But the difference is the environment in which one is exposed to and its corresponding result, meaning the product that each environment produces and its impact on that individual and their overall sense of fulfillment. Although true freedom will never exist in life, and that life is an unsolvable problem, because life must remain incomplete in order to provide motion forever, we must come to realize that nature provided and gave a much greater sense of freedom than society does. But the majority is hopelessly unaware of their own condition. They have no idea how heavy an influence society has had on their life and their own footsteps. that they are a product of society and not themselves. Society secretly infiltrates into the minds of men like a parasite, controlling the way they think, act, and behave in a way that is more suitable for society's needs. Then, it has been successful in its mission, which is 1. To make sure you're a good boy, and 2. To make sure its outer voice drowns out your inner one, because if the inner voice is extinguished, then there is nothing to oppose its reign, because you will not be able to reveal the error without the help of within. Society already controls food, water, and shelter, but now it is after the mind, keeping it distracted and entertained, keeping many in bondage, keeping all in their grasp. The only benefit of our enslavement is some guarantee of survival, but our guarantee of survival is at the cost of a meaningful life, because meaning is something that happens to you, and culture is not about you. As far as I can tell, it's about maintaining the luxury, convenience, and lifestyle of the rich. People do not realize that in mandatory servitude and obedience, they have made a deal with the devil. That we have given up our freedom and our soul to the lowest bidder. Our entire upbringing, throughout education, was only to get us up to speed on society's current position so that we may continue to develop it. Everything we have been taught, we never needed to know. Our education was only to prepare us for becoming a more efficient slave to someone else's greed. We do not need the knowledge that society offers. How can we believe we are free when becoming civilized is a mandatory requirement of society and is a process of refinement, a process of programming, a process of conforming to ways that are not naturally our own? A certain knowledge will set you free, but not the kind that society offers. We have the right idea, as order is necessity in life and inside man, but it is the wrong kind of order. It is better for man to be wild and free than to be programmed, a nature of order that exists only to make an unworthy person prosper. Becoming civilized is instantly an attack on your freedom of thought, action, and behavior, and this redirects your feet from where they desire to go. People don't like being told what to do. They naturally want to do what they want to do, and people will do everything they can to resist the suggestions that they don't agree with. If you went up to someone and told them, "Take off that jacket, I don't like it," they will fight back with words or fists. Yet meanwhile, the same people willingly submit to the ruling and direction of society every day of their lives because people cannot recognize their situation. They think it's normal, but our condition is very abnormal. But not everyone is unaware of their condition. There are also many who see the error, but feel powerless because the world is just too large and our ways too dependent on the things that cause imbalance to do anything about it. This is why the intelligent suffer the most in this society, because they see the great error of our ways and the people produced by it, but cannot do anything about it. And so they see what is correct, but cannot correct it, and this becomes a heavy burden for their entire life. Ignorance really is bliss. If you care about the world, it's almost as if you must condition yourself not to, for the sake of your own health. Otherwise, your own anger towards society will slowly consume and destroy you, as it almost did to me. The spiritual man cannot bear society. The spiritual man cannot bear living in error, for his entire life is devoted to being correct. For those who have an old soul, and I define an old soul as someone who is true to themselves despite environmental conditions or influences. What can they do about this situation of being pushed away from a life of simplicity and exposure to nature, of being forced into a lifestyle not suitable for their nature, of being forced to worship money and not spirit and nature? In such an environment, anyone can succumb to its error. We must, for the sake of our life, be vigilant and integrate mindfulness in our daily routine to clean up the daily mess that society feeds our head. We must stay close to spirit, or we will fall into a dark pit, absent its light. Man has become so misguided that there may be nothing to sway him from his path. If only he knew that the greatest freedom comes when all things prosper, and so if he desires freedom, he must take care of the earth. But now, it seems there is no escape from the error of society now. We were born to be free. Only the made-up laws and opinions of other humans can change that. There are pros and cons to all potential ages on habitable planets, but I deny this one because of the simple fact that it is far from nature and spirit. We must be as we are, not as another says. The only truth is your own. The only way is your own, not to be decided by another, not by the authority of money. Society is not your friend. Keeping us separated is a tactic of society to maintain power over us, and they are doing a good job at it. And so, only united can we solve the problem of today and give back true freedom, liberty, and happiness to us all.